Our ability to perceive quality in nature begins, as in art, with the pretty. It expands through successive stages of the beautiful to values as yet uncaptured in language. The quality of cranes lies in this higher gamut, beyond the reach of words. Aldo Leopold.
For millions of years, whooping cranes migrated free over much of North America. Their bugle-like voices haunted vast wetlands from Mexico to Florida during the winter, and over the summer their legendary unison call echoed over the northern reaches of Canada. The early part of the 19th century brought an influx of European settlement to North America, and soon after, the fate of the whooping crane did not appear good. Wetlands critical to the crane's survival were drained to create agricultural fields, and this stark 5-foot-tall bird was an easy target, which would feed many hungry mouths. By the early 1940s, the entire population of whooping cranes had dwindled to only 15. The crane's winter home, a 56-kilometer stretch of the Texas coast, was protected, but unless the nesting grounds could be found and protected, the future looked dim. With so few birds remaining, many thought there was little hope the species would survive. Almost a decade later, the remote breeding grounds of this rare crane were discovered when 2 Canadian Forest Service employees were dispatched to investigate a fire, burning just inside the boundary of Wood Buffalo National Park. It was on this flight that 2 adult whooping cranes and their single chick were observed below. The discovery of the crane's breeding grounds in an already protected national park offered renewed hope for this species. Researchers in Canada and the United States watched this small population increase slowly year after year. In late summer, the large white cranes would depart from their nesting area in Canada and guide their young 4,000 kilometers to the traditional winter home on the Aransas National Wildlife Refuge. In time, a recovery team was formed with representatives from Canada and the U.S. The team was assigned the responsibility of safeguarding the tallest bird in North America. Working under the direction of the recovery team, researchers began an intensive captive breeding program. In 1993, after many years of trial and error, the captive population was successfully producing enough chicks to begin releasing them into an area of central Florida. But whooping cranes are migratory birds, normally traveling north and south in response to the changing seasons. The instinct to migrate and the flyways used are as old as the species and normally passed on from one generation to the next. Whooping cranes, produced and raised in a captive situation, would not have an older generation from which to gain this migration know-how, so they stayed in Florida year-round. In 1993, while the resident population of cranes was in its early stages, 1,900 kilometers to the north in rural Ontario, Canada, a rather strange and bold experiment was underway. Pilots Bill Lishman and Joe Duff were attempting to convince young Canada geese to follow and eventually fly alongside their tiny ultralight aircraft. That fall, the 2 men planned to guide the imprinted geese on a migration journey from their home near Port Perry, Ontario, some 760 kilometers south to Virginia. With the successful return of the ultra geese, the following spring came the notion that perhaps their aircraft-guided migration technique, which many viewed as bizarre, could one day be used to restore populations of threatened and endangered migratory birds.
As pilots, we have